It's the week of junk justice. 3 different cases, 3 different men causing carnage, causing death, and yet they've all been through the system before and released. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist with the Toronto Sun. Joining me, our national crime columnist, Brad Hunter, to talk about this junk justice. Brad, we look at the case of Miles Sanderson, one of the 2 guys who was behind the knife massacre on James Cree First Nation and surrounding areas. You look at Sean Petrie, the guy who bizarrely shot a police officer, then 3 people at an auto body shop before being shot himself in Hamilton. And then you look at this guy, Nicholas Ivey, who's he's on trial now for murder after being sprung from jail for previous violent offenses. The common denominator is our system failed to protect the public.
Well, yeah, and I've talked to defense lawyers about this as well, as cops and whatnot. And the whole direction of the current government is rehabilitation, rehabilitation, rehabilitation at all costs, even though, there's a portion of these guys, there is no hope ever rehabilitating them.
I think most Canadians, most people would say, yeah, rehabilitation's got to be part of it. You can't lock everyone up forever. Okay. But as you say, they're trying to save every puppy in the pound, though. And some, if they've got an ongoing history, in case of Miles Sanderson, that massacre in Saskatchewan, he was out on parole, violates parole, goes back in. They let him out again a few months later, violates parole, and they didn't even go looking for him. There was a warrant out for his arrest.
As Miles Sanderson is no longer at large, I can confirm that he is no longer a threat and there is no risk to the public related to this investigation.
Nobody looked until there was a massacre. Yeah. So this seems to be an ongoing problem. Is the entire system rotten to the core? Are these a few bad apples?
I think someplace between a few bad apples and the entire system is rotten. I think, we made a deal. We got rid of the death penalty in 1976, and that was 14 years after the last 2 people hanged. And in 1962 at Toronto's Don Jail. Now, what in that deal was that, that's it, 25 years. Don't worry, the government of the day told people and said, these guys are going to be locked up, but they slipped in, of course, the faint hope clause. And it's really gone from there to a large extent. It's like we're almost afraid of punishing people. I saw a guy who was out west in Alberta today, a child killer who battered his 5-month-old baby to death because the child had the effrontery to pee or something like that. And so, but he's now sued successfully. He's had time cut off his sentence, the Alberta Attorney General, because some of the guards called him a child killer, and it was upsetting to him. But it's a daily thing.
He's a child killer.
Yes.
So what is the answer then? Do we push for stiffer sentences? I don't think that's something the current government's going to do. In fact, on serious gun crimes, they're in the middle of passing a bill to get rid of mandatory minimums for 3rd offenses. They say we don't want people who have been made a few youthful mistakes being caught up in a mandatory minimum. In one of them, I think it might be gun smuggling, you have to be on your 3rd conviction to get like a 5-year mandatory minimum. If you've been convicted of gun smuggling or other serious offenses 3 times, you're not making youthful mistakes.
I can advise that Petrie had an extensive criminal record, which includes convictions for assault, armed robbery, carry a concealed weapon, careless storage of a firearm, possession of a loaded, prohibited, or restricted firearm, breach of probation, and failure to comply with the recognizance, several property and driving offenses, and he was also the subject of a firearms prohibition. I can advise that in March 2007, he was placed on the national flagging system after being deemed a high risk to reoffend for an offense which occurred in 2005.
But this is the mentality of a lot of the people. And so you've got folks yelling, lock them all up. That's not going to be realistic. But the people in charge are very soft on crime. They don't see anything but rehabilitation as the way to go. And they don't believe that it's tough sentences are a deterrent. I don't care if they're a deterrent, Brad. I care if they protect the public.
Well, and not only that, is who is forgotten in this grand utopia of turning these poor lambs around are the populace, the average citizen, and the victims of crime. I interviewed a woman, I may have mentioned this before, I interviewed a woman last year, or attempted to interview her, and she had agreed to speak to me. And now her child was one of two toddlers who were raped and murdered by this guy. He was sentenced to hang. This was in like 1962, but he got cut a break and left after, was out after 11 years. What's he do? He goes and rapes two more kids, one of whom I interviewed. But I reached out, and then before dying and getting caught and being really serving serious time in the U.S., like the next 48 years or something. But the point is that this woman, her son had been murdered in 1962, and she was a 90-year-old woman, and God bless her, she could not talk about it. And it still broke her heart after all these years. Now there's no doubt nobody in the Justice Department has spoken to her about some of these things. And that's the problem. There's a disconnect.
They don't think about the people left behind or the other victims of the carnage.
Well, and exactly. And part of the thing is, by not addressing those things, they may be creating the conditions for future criminality there. The sons and daughters and whatnot of murder victims. Who fall into that because they've been deprived of the guidance
and trauma, the trauma of it all.
And trauma, exactly. And it is not a joke, but they continue to treat it like a joke. They continue to treat sex crimes against children as a joke. They treat human trafficking as a joke, and they take gun trafficking as a joke, all the while saying we're hard on guns. We're going to ban guns. Well, guns are effectively banned. Handguns, anyways, effectively banned in this country anyways. It's a red herring, and the cops find it laughable, and so do I.
All right, Brad, thanks so much. Audience, let us know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to The Sun at torontosun.com. Digital subscription offer on sale now.